Welcome back to another episode of PropSutra. At PropSutra, we aim to simplify and demystify real estate. In this week's episode, we discuss redevelopment. It's currently the buzzword in a city like Mumbai. What is redevelopment? What are the advantages and disadvantages? And how can a society approach it? Let's find out. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you.
So this week I'd like to talk to you about redevelopment. It's the buzzword in Mumbai. Can you tell us a little bit about why buildings go in for redevelopment?
Well, redevelopment is necessary whenever what most of Mumbai has are what we call RCC buildings.
Right.
Reinforced cement concrete sort of buildings, where the life of a building is usually up to max of 80 years. But generally, you will find between 50 to 60 years, they'll need quite a bit of retrofitting or rehabilitation in case it needs to extend its life. So what the government has said that buildings over 25 years can definitely look at redevelopment if they do believe that they would be better off with a better structure or better amenities. So a lot of buildings in Bombay which are very old, which are like the cessed buildings, the old tenanted building, they started the trend. And then it has happened also in the newer buildings, which are 30, 40 years old. People are looking at redevelopment. One, because it gives you more area, because nowadays you get more FSI, more TDR to be used on the same plot. It gives you a better amenity. It gives you better layouts. So there are a lot of advantages in redevelopment, and it's a win-win. Win for the person staying in the old building, a win for a developer who might step in to do the redevelopment, and win for the community at large, because you are actually doing what we would call a renaissance of the whole city or that locality, and it is just getting completely rejuvenated all over again. So, is it a good thing? Yes, it is a good thing. Is it a necessary thing? Yes, it is a necessary thing. Does it require a government to push incentives to enable people to come forward for doing it? Yes. And I think the government is doing a lot in that direction already.
Right. What do you think is missing from the current framework for redevelopment?
There's really nothing missing. What we would really require are more clarifications, because there can be a confusion as to whether under which subsection of 33(7) you might need, because we're discussing Mumbai out here,
Yes,
where it is the capital of redevelopment in this country. And so the local DCR rules, they can be sometimes confusing as to what can be used. There has been a new policy change last year which came about in March, I think, 2024, where there have been more clarifications sought, more concessions given that you can go high-rise even if the width of the road in front is a little bit less, falling short. So there have been concessions given, there have been clarifications given. But if you ask me what really falls short of the framework is, I think you need a tighter timelines to get these done, especially the entire approval process of the residents.
right.
Nowadays, I find that it's taking almost 2 years from the time the residents come together and decide they want to go for redevelopment till the time they have to vacate and the building is demolished and starts. That is a valuable 2 years.
Right.
Where most people don't understand, if a builder negotiates with them at one point of time, and then 2 years later you're getting the same thing.
Yeah.
So I would tend to believe that needs to be crashed a little by having tighter timelines to say, if residents come together and decide, how do they move forward? They can't keep going back and forth after signing the development agreement or signing the individual agreements they do, because it has to move with a specific timeline.
Right.
So this should be regulated maybe, and there should be notified authorities who can look into it and aid and abet this sort of a process for most of the buildings to go for redevelopment. I think if that happens, then it's much faster.
But most societies struggle here because you need a general consensus. Everybody, it's more democratic in nature. Everyone has to vote. You have to select a PMC. These are some of the reasons people give as to why it takes so long.
Oh, no, there is not really a great framework here. That's exactly what I'm saying, which is the lacuna. Like, say, you come together and 51% agree they'll go for redevelopment. Good. Now, within what time frame the government should make it clear you have to appoint a lawyer, you have to appoint a PMC. These are maybe the empaneled lawyers and PMCs.
Right.
Pick one and appoint it within 90 days.
Right.
Let them submit a report within 60 days. Let them evaluate the report, tender it out, get the proposals from all developers. There should not be these private treaties going on.
Right.
Because that gives way to a lot of litigation.
Yes.
The whole process should be done in 6 months from the time they voted that they go for redevelopment. Right. And then in the next 3 to 6 months, they should have all the agreements signed and put in place. So maximum within a year, you should be clearing out of the building once you have taken a decision.
Right.
And the redevelopment process should start, whether it will take 3 years or 5 years or 7 years.
What about the load on the current infrastructure? How do you see redevelopment impacting that?
See, the redevelopment always will impact the current infrastructure. But however, we do believe that all the investment we are making in infrastructure, what we see on the surface is like a concretization of the road.
Yes.
But also, they would be enhancing the capacity for stormwater drainage, the sewage disposal, the water lines to come in, the power lines to come in. So when you enhance the infrastructure, then only can you use the higher FSI because it creates a higher density of habitation, correct? Yeah. So most of the time, it has to go hand in glove, step by step, step in step with the infrastructure enhancement. So whenever these are given as incentives, enhancements of FSI, ability to use TDR in a certain area, it also implies that the local municipal corporation is also going to enhance its infrastructure. Because if it doesn't enhance the infrastructure, it will be lopsided. Right. You will have a higher density of people staying where the infrastructure does not support that density. You cannot give drinking water.
Yeah.
You understand? So it has to go hand in glove.
Okay, fine. There's water and there's electricity, but what about roads? Places like Lokhandwala or Lower Parel, we've seen that as newer, bigger buildings have come, one of the biggest challenges has been how do you manage vehicles coming in and out?
See, you have to agree when you redevelop, you can have setbacks.
Right.
So you can actually widen roads in certain places.
Yes.
That's one. Two, when you have redevelopment, you can have public parking places.
Right.
Which one time BMC was giving a pretty liberal FSI for parking places. Right. So that can be brought about.
Yeah.
And two, if or none of them can happen, then you have to have traffic management. You have to make certain roads, certain streets one way. So that's the way you control the traffic density.
In this segment, I want to talk to you about the large-scale redevelopment projects currently underway in Mumbai. We have Dharavi, we have BDD, chawls, and a bunch of others. What's your take on these large-scale redevelopment projects?
See, wherever there have been large-scale developments earlier of more low-rise or mid-rise.
Yes.
Or sometimes there have been slums, sometimes chawls. And so these are the places where the government feels if we enhance the infrastructure, we can also now have a better layout with high rises to be able to take on more people who might be project affected people when the infrastructure is being enhanced all over. It can be more affordable housing to be given. Right. So this is the place where there is a scope for actually going vertical. If you look at Dharavi, it's low rise all through.
Yes.
Correct? So there is a scope for going vertical if we enhance the infrastructure when you do redevelop Dharavi, and it can take on more people. Now, who are those more people who will take on? Most of the time, there will be more the lower income, the affordable, the EWS sections, which will happen.
Right. But a place like Dharavi is also in central Mumbai. It's also a very central location, which is why it also attracts a premium price. There could be a possible dichotomy where you have LIG, MIG, HIG all living together.
Correct.
What's your take on that?
I think in any city, though ideally you would like to gentrify it and say this locality is for, it doesn't happen. It gets mixed up slowly. Because the redevelopment, when it happens, LIG, MIG, HIG will come together.
Right.
So, yes, if you're talking about absolute ultra luxury, uber luxury housing, they might not be, cheek to jowl, as we call it, with a low income group. But if you talk about the regular premium, mid income, they'll always be together. I don't see it. You can't completely stratify it to say in this area because it's premium, only the top people will stay. Yeah, I understand. So I think there will be that mix. It is healthy in a way. And I think it also makes a city far more interesting. Because even if you look at New York, downtown New York,
yes,
you also have Harlem in it.
Yes, you're right.
Isn't it? It's not that it's only Manhattan, Wall Street. So there are instances when there is a mix of people from various strata coming together and living together. It need not necessarily be a bad thing.
Right. What's your take though on in-situ redevelopment, where say in-situ rehabilitation? Sorry, I have to correct myself. Do you think it's justified in all cases?
In most of the cases, it is justified because the person who is staying in a particular area is also going for work in that particular area. So now if I pluck him out and tell him now you go to Boisar or somewhere which is far away, it's not going to be easy for him.
Right.
So I can give him some sort of a rehabilitation within that locality,
right,
and have somebody else also next to him.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily feel that you should pluck all low income or EWS and throw them far off. Not at all.
But I'm speaking, of course, with regular legal tenements that I understand. What about
all slums have also become legal with a cutoff, isn't it?
But that was going to be my question. That is it really justified? A lot of, even it's not just in Mumbai, even in Delhi, Goa, you're seeing a lot of regularization of illegal tenements, right? You regularize it, you make them legal, then you rehabilitate them.
Yes. See, you're right to the extent it cannot be a constant cycle.
Correct.
Yeah. But if a government has to stop it, it has to take a cutoff, regularize it. Just because they're illegal tenants, you can't throw them out.
I understand.
Yeah. But what we should definitely prevent is that constant re-happening of the same thing.
Right.
You don't want them to come up again, a new crop, a new batch, and again to rehabilitate them. So that has to stop. So definitely there has to be a far stricter regulation and enforcement of the law.
Right.
But who are already there existing, I think it'll be very unfair to say just because you're illegal, we are not going to house you but throw you out.
Regularization, like you said, is maybe the answer. Is it also the solution for affordable housing?
See, affordable housing is the solution when you regularize illegal slums.
Right.
Correct? So you're trying to make affordable housing, LIG, because everybody should have a shelter.
Right.
That is civilization. Nobody should be homeless. Nobody should be on the road. Correct?
Yes.
So should they be made? Yes. Should they be cross-subsidized by the premium housing? Yes. That's how a city grows. So it cannot be completely be driven by capitalism ideas that only if you have the money, I'll have a house. And if you don't have the money, you stay on the park bench. That's what gives rise to crime and violence.
Right.
So we have to have affordable housing. We have to have economically weaker sections. We have to make them stand. We have to make them feel confident that they belong to the city because they are as much denizens of that city as you and I are. So is it necessary? Is it a solution? Yes, it is. It is necessary. It is the solution. And every government should be trying to figure out how to aid and abet that.
Do you think redevelopment in Mumbai is being driven by additional FSI?
Think about it. If you have to tear down a building and put it up, who pays for it? You can either tell the original residents to pay for it.
Yeah.
How do they pay for it? From their savings?
Yes.
It's very difficult.
Yeah.
So most of the buildings then can never be
Redeveloped. Yes.
Correct?
Yeah.
So when you get an incentive of an additional FSI, you're telling that the cost of the redeveloping the building can be borne by selling that additional FSI in the market.
Right.
Either you sell it as TDR or you sell by making new flats and selling it to new buyers, correct?
Yes.
Otherwise, it's very difficult to redevelop any building.
Right.
Correct? Because it is an additional expense.
Yes.
So now when the government is allowing, like say for example, there's been a recent relaxation in rules that buildings which are in the funnel zone of Mumbai airport, who could not go up in height, they said, how do we redevelop? Because if you give me additional FSI, I still can't go up. So what do I do with the additional FSI?
Right.
So the government says you can sell it as TDR.
Right.
Correct? Or we are going to relax in certain places, how high you can go. You go up to that height and use whatever FSI you can, sell the balance as TDR. Because by doing that, these older residents are being able to raise the capital to redo the entire building. No?
Yes. Yeah.
Otherwise, the very root of any redevelopment figures out is who pays for it.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
So the question comes in, unless I get additional FSI or TDR to sell, I will not be incentivized to break down my building and start afresh.
Yes.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Buildings find it difficult to paint every 5 years, 8 years.
Yeah.
Okay? Where are they going to tear down the whole building? And that too, especially if it is a 50-year-old building, there are old residents who are there, senior citizens. Where will they find the money to redo the whole building? They can't.
But do you think that's a flaw in how we run our societies? Should we be building a heftier maintenance corpus? Should we be trying to...
We do have a concept of a sinking fund.
Right.
In the cooperative society rules also. But the sinking fund is more for repairs.
Right.
They can take care of repairs and maintenance. But repairs and maintenance is very different from completely redoing and redeveloping a building.
I understand. Yeah. Why do you see Mumbai choosing to grow vertically rather than horizontally?
Yeah. See, Mumbai as a city cannot grow on all sides. It's bounded on the west by the water.
Right.
Right? So it can only go into the hinterland. So basically, it's a city which has a much smaller footprint. Mumbai city by itself, BMC, will not have more than 400 to 500 square kilometers, which is very small compared to some of the mega cities which are 5,000 square kilometers.
Right.
So it is a city which will have high density, which means it has to go vertical.
Right.
So Mumbai, like the Hong Kongs and New Yorks of the world, will go vertical only. Unlike Delhi or a Bangalore, which can grow on all sides. It can expand north, south, east, west. So they can be more expansive at low rise. But Mumbai, which is on the coast, will go vertical. So whether it is a vertical LIG or a vertical MIG or a vertical HIG, they'll all be vertical. What we have to look at, however, is how do you enhance infrastructure? How do you bring in civic sense? How do you enforce law and order? How do you do traffic management? How do you give equal respect and dignity to pedestrians and public commuters, and not just to private car owners? So that is the way it is made fair and equitable.
Right. This brings us to an end to this week's episode. Stay tuned next week for part 2, where we discuss self-redevelopment. If you enjoyed the show, please share your comments and feedback in the comment section below. For regular notifications, please hit the bell icon. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. We'll be back next week. Thank you so much for tuning in.